Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. John, how was your weekend?
It was a really interesting weekend watching UNO take on Ohio State at Baxter Arena. And we will get to that in just a moment. But up front, we've got to give a plug to our official merchandise sponsor this season, Lawler's Custom Sportswear. Yes, Jason is wearing one of the custom MavPuck.com design shirts, which means I designed it, that we had a limited sale for this month. And it looks great, Jason. I purchased the same gray shirt that has the lyrics from the UNO fight song on it. That was a popular one. Your daughter got a hoodie. My niece Scotland got a hoodie with that on it. So very nice. I saw a number of people around the arena wearing their merchandise. Those orders have just gone out, Jason. Do you like the shirt?
I do. It's super comfortable. I thought that Lawlers did a great job putting your designs, into reality for us, and seeing people wear it around the rink this weekend was pretty special, because I know I don't think we got our notice that it was available until Friday, and I think we're kind of just rolling those out here. But next series, hopefully we'll see a lot more of them on the concourse.
Yeah, Pat Lawler, who is the owner of Lawler's Custom, had been talking about doing a line of merchandise for us for a while. So that was a neat limited edition sale that they did. And if you want to get other UNO hockey apparel items, be sure to visit Lawler's Custom Sportswear. You can visit their brick and mortar store on 84th Street. You can visit their booth at games at Baxter Arena, or you can visit them online at lawlerscustom.com. So before we jump into the series against Ohio State, Jason, during UNO's bye week, that happened last week, you took a trip out to Colorado to see your beloved Colorado Avalanche. You also got to see the latest Old Bull, former Maverick playing for the Colorado Avalanche, Freddie Olofsson.
Yeah, my daughter's favorite former UNO player for sure. So yeah, that was really nice to see him. And we got tickets for the Eagles just in case they decided to send him down for some reason. But he had a couple good games out there. I saw an interview with him that he's kind of accepted his role. And he's probably never going to be a first line guy, but he's really embracing with Colorado that fourth line mentality. And so looking for big things from him and the other former Mavs in the pros out there.
Yeah, it's always great to see former UNO players having success in the professional ranks, especially those guys who aren't like the Jake Ginsels of the world, the guys who work their way into a starting lineup and find success like that. So that was really great that you got to see him play. If you're watching this on YouTube, you're getting to see some images and photos of Freddie out there playing for the Colorado Avalanche. So it's fun that you got to go out and do that. But we are here, of course, to talk about our series against Ohio State on October 27th and 28th at Baxter Arena. Jason and I, for the last few seasons, have been wishing that UNO would play some tougher non-conference opponents early in the season. And as the old adage goes, Jason, be careful what you wish for. You might just get it.
We knew this was going to be a tight series going into it. We knew that these two teams were pretty close. They play, they play a style of hockey that doesn't allow for a lot of room for error. And unfortunately, there were a lot of errors made by both teams in both games, and so.
Yeah, certainly the Friday game, I think, was UNO's best opportunity to win this weekend. First period Friday night, 12:56 into the first. Ohio State's Michael Gilden puts the Buckeyes up 1-0. But just a couple minutes later, 14-14 into the first, Maverick senior forward Brock Bremer ties the game up 1-1. That sequence was keyed by a shot from sophomore defenseman Griffin Ludke in our offensive zone. Jesse Lansdale also got an assist on that play. What did you think about UNO at that point in the latter half of the first period, tying it up 1-0, Jason?
We looked good, especially the first, I'd say like the first 5-10 minutes out the gate. UNO came out really pushing hard, trying to get that first goal. They weren't successful, as you mentioned, but I think that's going to be an important thing for them moving through the season is those strong starts. And we've seen it against Niagara and stuff, like just get out there, pedal to the metal, go full force. And and I think what we struggled with early on is getting pucks through. I saw our Corsi numbers and stuff were amazing. Like we were probably a top 5 team for the first 5 minutes on Corsi shot attempts. So it shows that they're really trying to get it through. I think the next step, particularly for our defensemen, is finding the lanes. Holding onto the puck just a little bit longer to get it through those checking forwards that are up top playing RD. Because when we did get it through, as you saw with Brock Bremer's goal, like good things happened. There were a lot of net front crashes and stuff on Friday night. And we got a lot of opportunities off of that. And so it's going to come down to our defenseman's ability to get the puck through the defenders and onto the goaltender to create some chaos and generate some opportunities for us.
Absolutely. The first period ends knotted 1-1. 7:24 into the second period. Defenseman Kirby Proctor puts UNO ahead 2-1. He was fed by a pass from forward Michael Abgral in our defensive zone. Really nice goal for Proctor. Great to see Michael Abgral getting integrated more into the lineup this season. Look, Kirby's a guy that we don't really expect to score goals out there, Jason. UNO is up 2-1 at that point, and then about 4.5 minutes later, Ohio State's Mason Klee, who's a transfer from RPI, who had 4 total goals in 4 years with the Engineers, ties it up for the Buckeyes. The second period ends 2-2, so it's all tied up going into that third period. Jason, how are you feeling going into the third?
I felt we were in an okay position. We're not down. The guys are playing well, and it's gonna. The tough thing is that those types of games are usually going to come down to making a mistake, and the team that makes the fewer mistakes or capitalizes on the other team's mistakes are the teams that are going to win. And so, given our history and stuff of our tendency to turn the puck over on our breakout and things like that, worried me a little bit going into it. But it's great to see, like you pointed out, guys that in the past we haven't really either we haven't seen very much of, or guys like Brock Bremer that we just haven't expected a ton out of. To see them get on the board, to see them have some success, and generate some offense, that's a good sign for UNO moving forward.
UNO had their struggles in that third period, Jason. Of note was a 2-minute power play opportunity that we had starting at 9:25 into the third period. And you will remember this sequence. Simon Lacosi started in net, and I'm certainly glad we had him in net that night. There were 2 breakaway opportunities for Ohio State, 2 shorthanded opportunities on that power play sequence that Simon really came up big. But that was a tough stretch, a tough power play for us. You don't normally say that about a power play, but it was a difficult power play for us. What did you think about the save Simon made? What did you think about that sequence of events?
Simon was strong, and he has been for a while. We expected that coming into the season. We talked in the season preview episode about how important his play was going to be and what kind of steps he could take as a sophomore. It was really going to dictate whether or not this team found success this season. And I think that just proved it. Like, his ability to bail our guys out when they make mistakes is huge. In the past, those types of things might have been goals in our net, and then you're, behind the 8 ball and you're having to push more and you're taking more chances, and that leads to more opportunities for the other team. And so it's a snowball kind of effect. So it makes a huge difference when he makes those kinds of saves. Generally speaking, our special teams was our Achilles heel this weekend. And I can't remember which one of us said it in one of the preview episodes, but I know we talked about, the importance of special teams, of, having a high-end penalty kill and keeping teams down on that, and then, making sure that we capitalize on our opportunities. We need to get better at that. It's not just necessarily finding offense on our power play, but it's making sure that we keep the momentum, right? Like, use that power play to start generating chances, to get your cycle going, so that even if you don't score on the power play, like, to find goals that come, shortly thereafter. There's a stat that looks at goals 2 minutes after a 2-minute power play, and you like to see teams that are ahead on those things, scoring more in those 2 minutes than giving up. And unfortunately, like, so far this season, that's kind of been a bad thing for us. That's something we really struggled with, is capitalizing on that momentum, and generating those chances. And so I don't know what coach's plan is, but if he listens and he needs some advice, work on your power play this week.
Yeah, definitely right. They really need to play a disciplined brand of hockey on special teams. One of those shorthanded opportunities for Ohio State was keyed by a bad neutral zone turnover by UNO. So we were lucky to get out of that third period, tied 2-2. The game goes to the 3-on-3 overtime period. I really thought Ohio State controlled play during that 3-on-3 overtime period. The game was still tied after that. So in the NCAA record books, the game goes down as a tie. Normally, when the shootout is done, its importance is during conference play, where the extra conference point is on the line and a shootout win determines that. So there were a number of UNO fans complaining on social media about what they thought was a kind of a pointless shootout at the end. But it's fun for fans to be able to watch. Ohio State ultimately won the shootout. It certainly was not the start that we were looking for in this series. Although, Jason, on the last episode, you and I both thought UNO would lose on Friday night and win on Saturday night in the series. So I think we were going into Saturday night hopeful that things would turn around for UNO, that they would come out and establish themselves early, and get the W. But 2:07 into the first period on Saturday night, Ohio State's Damian Carfagna gets the scoring started. The Buckeyes moved well around the offensive zone. What did you think about UNO's play early in that first period, going down 1-0?
I thought we looked terrible. Like, there was just nothing, like, there were no adjustments. We were still playing the same game that we played Friday, thinking that, and I can see where it comes from, right? Like, you played well on Friday night. You don't want to make a whole lot of adjustments. You don't want to, throw it out and start over. But you have to know that Ohio State's going to make adjustments. You've got to know that they're going to do things differently. And you've got to be prepared to make some adjustments. And it just seemed like, we were playing the same exits, the same entries, and Ohio State knew what we were going to do. The thing that really, I think, hurt us, and this hurt us before, is that early penalty to Lancel where he gets ejected. It's almost this defeatist kind of attitude where, they don't just kind of give up, but like, they're almost afraid to keep playing, kind of thing. And I think that's why we see throughout Saturday night's game, you see a lot of after the whistle kinds of rough housing play kinds of things. And that stuff is because the teams are worried, particularly UNO, about, losing another player or taking another major penalty.
Yeah, things definitely got chippy early and often during that game. 7:08 into the first, Ohio State's Dalton Messina puts the Buckeyes up 2-0. UNO defenseman Jacob Gavin turned the puck over in the defensive zone. Just an unfortunate turn of events for UNO. The game stayed 2-0 through the rest of the second period. Anything's possible in that third period if UNO can put things together.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message in that locker room was you're only down two, we're capable of getting back. We just need to have, whatever it is that the coaches are seeing that they want, changed up. Like you got to come out and make adjustments. And, you're looking at the way those two goals happen, and it's, you got beat off the wall for the first one. So right there, just make sure that you stay on your guy and don't get beat off the wall. And the second one was, shorthanded and we weren't supporting the puck. So let's make sure that our breakouts are better and support the puck and, go back to pedal to the metal, the kinds of stuff that we did in the first 10 minutes of Friday night. Like that would have been my message to the guys in the locker room is focus on those things, and good things will kind of happen. The unfortunate thing is that we really gripped our sticks kind of tight and we went into the third and we were trying a little too hard. We started doing some of those like fancy kinds of plays, thinking like we have to do something amazing, instead of just the bland, boring puck to the net, skaters to the net, and moving as a unit. We started opening up on our breakouts, and that gave Ohio State some room to jump some passes, and there were turnovers because we weren't coming back to support the puck. And it's going to suck. Like this is the kind of thing we've talked about, the question marks with UNO about where goal scoring is going to, come from. And so when they have games like this where they're struggling to score and they've got a goaltender that's playing well against them, they've got to get back to the basics and not try to do too much. And the mentality, particularly with the younger forwards, seems to be like, I've got to try to do, I got to try to do more than what I should do. I got to try to do it myself, kinds of things. And it's clearly not going to work by the result on Saturday night. And I think that we're going to find, more and more examples of that through the season, unfortunately.
5:13 into the third period, Ohio State goes up 3-0. The goal was set up because UNO couldn't clear the puck out of the defensive zone. And then 8:40 into the third, Ohio State's John Larkin gets the fourth and final goal. UNO goes on to lose the game 4-0. Certainly, these weren't the results that UNO was looking for on Parents' Weekend. We've talked many times about how the team seems to struggle on Parents' Weekend. Look, you and I have talked about UNO benefiting from playing these top tier opponents during the non-conference tilt in the first half of the season. And despite the outcome, I think you learn a lot of good things from a series like this that doesn't go your way against top competition before you head into conference play. It gives you an opportunity to learn about some of the things that you need to work on, some of your weaknesses and deficiencies that you need to try and rectify. Jason, what are your final thoughts on this series against Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, as UNO is concerned, it is a lot to learn from. This is the kind of game that the lessons that you learn that you don't get when you play, Niagara, right? Like we learned more from losing on Saturday and the effort that we put in on Friday than we probably would from wins against Niagara. From the sense of the pairwise and stuff like we talked about last year, come February, these are the types of games that these losses won't hurt us nearly as much because Ohio State's expected to continue to do well. So, in those regards, there's positives to take from this. The thing that worries me the most is that we're in an age of prevalent video. And from a coaching staff and from a team perspective, the biggest problem we have is that every NCHC team is going to look at Saturday night's game against Ohio State and say, this is how you beat UNM. This is how they can be just completely suffocated. The penalty kill for Ohio State on Saturday is the same penalty kill every time. And it caused us so many problems. They'd take one forward hard on the puck, force that player to make decisions. earlier than what they would want to. They'd want to be in the neutral zone before they make the decision to drop the pass or, go for like a slant route or something like that goes into the net, or a center swing or something like that. Like, they want to make that decision in the neutral zone, and Ohio State forced us to make that decision in our zone. And that's why we got turnovers and stuff there. And then once they do make that decision, it's three guys on the line. Like, they kept doing a three stack on the line, and we would not shoot the puck in to get around that. And so those are the types of things that worries me, is that if we don't adjust, if we don't find a way to play a different game, to say, like, if you're going to stack three against us, we're going to find a way around it. If we don't figure that out and we don't make that change, then it's going to be a rough sled when we get to the NCHC, because you're going to have games like this, teams of this caliber, every weekend.
Absolutely correct. The Saturday night game, first time UNO has been shut out at home since December 4th, 2021, when we lost to Colorado College 4-0, Jason. So great analysis there, as usual. But let's turn to something hopefully a little bit more positive. Our players of the week, Jason. Who did you like as your player of the week in this series against Ohio State?
I've been struggling with two of them. I think on the weekend, I've got it, like, for both series, I got to put Brock Reimer out there again. Like, I have not. We've seen him for a few years now. I have not seen him play like this. He was he was our most efficient forward when it comes to shots for, even strength movement. He's always that, I nicknamed him the mosquito for me, and I don't know if it sticks beyond us, but he's just, the number of times that he's in scrums, and just, he's a little guy, and these Ohio State guys are like, they have an abnormal amount of 6 foot plus guys, and this Brock Bremer, all of 5 something, is in there just being like, you're not pushing me around, you big bully. And I just loved, I love that play, and he takes a couple penalties for it. All right, like, so be it. If I remember right, like, every time he took someone else with him, so hey, even it up, that's fine. But he was our best player at getting pucks through, getting pucks on net, and creating something. And a lot of our guys are sub 500 on their attempts, and it's like I said in the breakdown, right? Like, we've got to get shots through. This is the guy that was getting shots through.
Yeah, we've been impressed with him all season long. I know you have, ever since the exhibition game against Mankato a few weeks ago. He's really tough for being such a little guy, but it's nice to see him in his senior season having success. So I completely agree with the pick. I've got to go with goalie Simon Lacosi, who stopped 26 shots on Friday, and I think really salvaged the tie for UNO. Quite honestly, considering how this coaching staff normally picks goaltenders to start on a game-by-game basis, I was really surprised after his performance on Friday night that he wasn't starting in net on Saturday nights. I know that sometimes in these early games they'll rotate the two goaltenders, but in a big series like this against a top 20 opponent, I thought that they would start Simon on Saturday night. They didn't start Simon on Saturday nights, but obviously a stalwart in net for us. Been very impressive. Certainly held the reins of that position during the second half of last season, Jason. Simon saved our bacon in that third period on Saturday night.
He did. I have to ask you, what did you think of Slipek coming in on Saturday, not playing Friday, then playing Saturday? What did you see from him?
Well, it was really interesting to have him in the game. In addition, sophomore defenseman Joe LeMay was not in the lineup. Did you ever hear why LeMay didn't get in the lineup on Saturday night?
I did not see anything on the injury report as to what it was. I did see that he was listed as an injury out and not a healthy scratch. And I mean, with the injury issues that UNO's had so far, this season, my guess is he probably tweaked something and they said, well, I don't want to push it, kind of thing. the last thing you want is a minor injury to go out there to try to have him play through it for, Ohio State and end up missing, Western Michigan, Cairo College, North Dakota, something like have it go deep into the spring or something like that because you just made it worse. So that's a coaching decision, probably a lot with the athletic training staff about like what are the odds that this gets worse kind of thing. And those muscle, like if he's got a minor pull or strain or something like that, can go downhill in a hurry. So but I don't remember anything on Friday that would have done it. That was the weird thing, is like I just don't. There was probably a play that like you just don't recognize in the course of it, but yeah, getting Slipback back, I thought like he played a really good game. He was the other guy that was like, if he played Friday the same way that he played Saturday, I think we win on Friday. He was, he was just like, he was a little tentative when that first shift, I noticed, but it was like, okay, now I know I can skate. And it was just, he was all over the place. He was kind of a little wrecking ball out there. Him and Bremer are two that I really liked. I really liked their play on Saturday a lot. And so they're probably the only two on Saturday that I can say like I was actually even semi impressed with.
Yeah, it was great to get Jacob Slipbeck back in the lineup. He's a really important component in our offensive success. Certainly not, I'm sure, the game that he was hoping for. And my apologies for veering away from your question and bringing up Joe LeMay, Jason. It just it jogged my memory. I had meant to mention that during our game discussion that he was not in there because LeMay is certainly one of those offensive defensemen who's an important part of our success in the offensive zone. So we'll have to see if we get an update this week at the midweek presser. But turning to our things you missed at Baxter Arena. Jason, I'm so glad a couple of years ago you named that segment because we've had a lot of interesting things to talk about. Last week, we talked about the flaming baton twirlers before the game, which is certainly Jason's favorite subject to talk about. Jason was non-committal one way or another. Last week, we had 2 baton twirlers. This week, they upped it to 3 flaming baton twirlers. I said on last week's podcast that we needed to have more, and Mike West and company came through and gave us 3 baton twirlers. Jason, I'm hoping it's 4 baton twirlers this week at Baxter Arena for the series against Western Michigan.
Eventually they're going to run out of room on the ice for all of your baton twirlers.
That's right. Now, Michael Sharp pointed out in the comments section on YouTube that apparently the Omaha Knights back in the day had flaming baton twirlers at their games. I did not know that. I have not been able to find confirmation on that, but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit that he shared. Very interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this develop and how much lighter fluid the team goes through this season for the baton twirlers.
Still waiting for one of them to throw it in the air and not just like spin it around.
Exactly. Ooh, that would be nice. So more twirlers, more
the suspense. Will she catch it or not?
Story is developing. We had trick or treats for the kids in the concourse on Saturday nights. Your kids were not at Baxter Arena on Saturday night, Jason.
Correct. They were living lives. We don't have lives, so we go to hockey games.
They were doing other interesting things on Saturday night, although, as you know, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more interesting than going to UNO hockey games. Our niece Scotland came and got herself a bag full of candy, so she enjoyed that. It's always nice when they do that for the kids. UNO has put out a calendar of events for the rest of the season, so you shouldn't miss any more theme nights. You can find that on our Twitter account or on our Facebook page. We will share that calendar and we'll be resharing it throughout the season as a reminder of some of the upcoming events. As I mentioned before, Jason, it was also Parents Weekend. Do you have any thoughts on Parents Weekend? It's kind of nice to run into some of the parents in the concourse. Ultimately, we didn't have post-game celebrations on Friday or Saturday night. So normally you see a lot of the parents who have traveled in at that. But any thoughts on Parents Weekend?
Everyone does it. It's always it's always a good weekend for the guys to have that home connection and stuff. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the guys a few years back or something that I was talking to said, because his parents got a Airbnb, and so he was able to go and get a home cooked meal, and stuff. And like I get, I think that's kind of that's a cool thing, right? Like it's just fun and in the season. But the challenge to those are, and I know you have talked about the inability for the team to find success on those weekends. Like the hard part is that so much of hockey, when you get into these higher levels, becomes routine. And that's why, like, I hear NHL players talk all the time about how they hate, noon, 2 o'clock games, things like that, because, they're used to eating the same thing 4 hours before warm-up skate, right? And it's like, do I really want to get up and make chicken parmesan at 5 a.m.? Like, so it throws off the routine and the schedule and your routine, what you're going through to get yourself mentally prepared for the game. And that may be something to chalk up. Most of the festivities were on Saturday night, and that may be part of the reason why we struggled. Who knows?
Yeah, it's always hard to say. I remember when Dean Blaze was the head coach at UNO, Parents Weekend would absolutely drive him nuts. So there's that, Jason. We gotta talk about this year's Wear Black Give Back campaign that UNO is doing. Bridget and I are ambassadors for the event, Jason. I'm wearing my Wear Black Give Back T-shirt for this year. It's UNO's annual day of giving, 24 hours from noon on November 8th to noon on November 9th. You can give to a variety of causes within the university, including UNO hockey specifically, or student athlete development, or scholarships in athletics. So if you want to direct your money toward the hockey program, you can certainly do that. Last year, they raised $553,000. This year, the donor goal is they want to get 4,000 donors giving. If you give $65 or more, you get a UNO blanket. So that's a nice little perk. They want you to post on social media using the hashtag #WearBlackGiveBack. So if you make a donation, be sure to mention that donation online. Now, we got a little pack. In addition to the t-shirt, Jason, we got this little foam finger. I think we got one of those last year. That's always fun. Yeah, hold that on the finger. We also get this little Durango that you can pop him out of here and post pictures with him and yourself on social media with the hashtag. So that's kind of a nice deal. Bridget and I will certainly be promoting that on social media. We will also, of course, be talking about that again on next week's podcast. You can learn more about the Wear Black Give Back campaign at givingday.unomaha.edu. Bridget and I support various causes at the university. We donate to the Alumni Association. We donate to this Wear Black Give Back campaign. We also, of course, donate to UNO Athletics. Jason, what do you think of the Wear Black Give Back campaign? Was Jolene an ambassador this year? I hate to put you on the spot. I should have asked you that before the.
Yeah, because I think she got the same stuff that you were talking about with the foam finger and the flat Durango and that. So yeah, we've given in the past, and I think these kinds of community events and stuff really show the connection from the program to the community. And it's nice to see them have success. So we as well will be donating and posting our donation and that about it. And so hopefully we see a lot of our listeners and stuff do the same. And we're not alumni, so this is kind of one of the bigger ways that we give back to the university. Just being fans and wanting to be supportive of our local educational institution.
Absolutely. Very nice that you do that, Jason. UNO has meant a lot to Bridget and I in our lives. We had full tuition scholarships there. And so we've just loved all of our experiences with the university, both when we were students back in the 1990s and today with some of the alumni events and certainly UNO hockey. Speaking of the alumni association, they are going to be holding their Maverick Fan Fest November 4th. That'll be before the Saturday game, 5 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. It's on Holland Ice this year. Last season, it was in the parking lot north of the Holland Ice, but this year it's going to be on Holland Ice. It's free to attend, but you need to RSVP. I don't know if the RSVPs have closed or not, but if you're interested in attending and you don't need to be an alumni of the university, anybody can attend. Visit unoalumni.org/homecoming for more information. And if registrations close, I'm sure you can contact them and I'm sure they can make accommodations. Should be kind of a neat deal. Also on the weekend of November 3rd and 4th, homecoming will be celebrated. So you'll have the homecoming candidates out on the ice. November 3rd is going to be vintage night, Jason. So it looks like the team's going to be wearing jerseys and breezers that match the early years of the program. I know you were wearing on 90s night at Baxter Arena this last Friday, you were wearing your red road jersey from back during that era.
My first UNO jersey. So I don't know if it was 90s or not, but it was as close as I could get.
Yeah, they wore that design through the early 2000s. So it'll be interesting to see. My assumption is because they've already advertised that Lawlers is going to be selling those vintage design jerseys that the team wore early on in their history. So it's going to be interesting to see the team if they come out onto the ice in those uniforms, because we haven't seen that predominantly red look for UNO in a long time. So that should be really cool. You're definitely going to want to be out there. And then our final note, I feel like I'm, the calendar section of the news broadcast. I told Bridge, like, I need a production assistant here. That's too much to remember. But Bridget has secured group tickets for the November 25th game in Sioux Falls against Augustana. Augustana, brand new Division I hockey program, has had quite a bit of success here early on this season. We are selling group tickets through MavPuck.com. If you go to MavPuck.com and click on the events tab, you can find a link to order tickets on there. Bridget, I believe, secured 75 tickets for that game. And I know Jason and Jolene and their family are coming up to that game. Bridget and I are coming up to that game. We're trying to talk our niece Scotland into coming up with us. Should be a fun time. So if you're interested in tickets, be sure to check MavPuck.com.
And it's a home and home, I think, to point out too. Like, we played them here on Friday, and then we're going to go follow the team up to the home and home series. So it should be a lot of fun to see the difference between playing the same team here and the same team there. John, we used to do it a lot with DUCC because that's the way they always ran the Gold Pan, is instead of, one weekend at Denver and then one weekend at Carroll College, is every weekend it was, Friday night at CC and then Saturday at DU, and then it was Friday at DU and Saturday at CC. And so, yeah, I remember these are going to be like throwbacks for me because I remember making the trip down I-25, never make the trip up 29.
Yeah, absolutely right. It is kind of too bad that we don't live in a conference that's more geographically aligned, because you'll see that with some of the teams out east where they'll play one team on Friday night and then a different team on Saturday night, or they'll play at home on Friday night and then travel on Saturday night. So that's an experience we really don't get to have. But with Augustana starting a program and having them just a couple hours away, hopefully this will become an annual tradition, because I think that's kind of a neat deal to have. I know that weekend after Thanksgiving is always busy for people, but we would encourage fans to attend that series and have a good showing for UNO, because UNO is going to be the host school in that same arena when March rolls around for the NCAA tournament regional. So kind of a nice deal. We would encourage you to come sit with us at that game. But before that, we've got quite a bit of hockey to be played, and up next, November 3rd and 4th, Western Michigan comes to town. Jason, it's our first conference series of the season. Both of those games will, of course, be at 7:07 p.m. at Baxter Arena. The Broncos are coming in off of a bye week. They are 3-0-1, and they played Ferris State and Bowling Green to start the season. The Broncos have scored a total of 19 goals in the first 4 games this season, so they are averaging 4.8 goals per game. Jason, what are your thoughts on this Western Michigan series going in, looking at the team, looking at some of the players that they have on that roster?
They shoot a lot. This is gonna be a game where we're gonna need to find a way to limit, opportunities. They've got a lot of upperclassmen. I think I look like 6, if I remember right. I think it was 6 graduate students. Like almost half their teams, like senior or graduate student. So, these are guys that you're not going to surprise them. They know how to play. Granger for sure. Like key him up. If we can keep him off the scoreboard, we've got a much better opportunity. Goaltending, I'd say that's probably their weak spot that I've seen. Part of that is the defense and what they're doing in front of him. So getting the pucks in deep, getting our own shots, getting shots through, like same thing we just talked about, right? Get them through, get shots on net, crash that net, move as a unit. If you start spreading out, this team's fast enough that they will turn a turnover into a goal in a heartbeat. So those are going to be the keys to seeing wins against Western Michigan. Yeah, it should be exciting. It's going to be a good game. So if you're here, definitely go see.
Absolutely. Some players to watch. Jason already mentioned senior forward Luke Granger. Jason also mentioned him in our season premiere of the Mavpuckcast when we were looking at the NCHC. Certainly a talented forward for the Broncos. He has 3 goals and 7 assists already this season, so he's definitely a player you're going to want to keep an eye on. And the UNO defenders are going to want to keep an eye on this weekend. Omaha Lancer fans will be familiar with freshman forward Alex Bump, who was talked a lot about on social media during the offseason. He has 2 assists this season. And then Jason mentioned goaltending. Goaltender Cameron Rowe, who interestingly enough, had committed to UNO back in 2017. He eventually landed at Wisconsin, and now he is at Western Michigan. He will be in net again this season for the Broncos. It's his second season with WMU. He currently has a 2.7 goals against average. Pat Ferschweiler, great coach. He picked up where Andy Murray left off with that program. Hard-nosed, gritty, blue-collar program. They reflect their coach. They reflect the part of the country that they live in. It's going to be a tough game, and this game could get chippy fast, so UNO's got to be resilient. They've got to stay disciplined. Jason, what's your prediction for this weekend? How do you think UNO is going to do in their first conference series at Baxter Arena against the Western Michigan Broncos?
I think it's going to be closer than what some people or some of the early analysis stuff that I've seen. They think that UNO play well, but that Western would sweep, and I'm not convinced of that. I think that UNO has the elements that they need, quite honestly, to sweep Western Michigan at home. When you can kind of get the matchups that you're looking for and making sure that maybe you want Mancini out there against Granger, you're going to be able to get that more often than not because you have the last change. And coach has done a really good job of holding his guys, making sure that he gets the last change. So I'm going to say a split because Western Michigan's a good team, and I just don't see them, getting swept out of the building. Honestly, if we lose Friday, though, that's going to be my concern. Is it seems like we're playing better on Fridays, and so if we tie or if we lose on Friday, I'm a little worried about our ability to make adjustments and find a win on Saturday. So I'm going to say we win on Friday, lose on Saturday.
All right. Very good, Jason. I have not given a totally optimistic pick this season. Normally I do. As you know, I picked UNO to finish in the top half of the NCHC this season in our season premiere episode, and I'm sticking with that. And part of a run at the top half of the conference starts with getting points early in the season. I think UNO is going to be upset this week after the hangover that they are currently experiencing from the Ohio State series. I'm going to say we win both games. Friday and Saturday night. It's going to be tough. It's going to be close. They're going to have to play disciplined hockey. They're going to have to be resilient. They can't let little things get them down. They can't let a tough penalty get them down. They're going to have to get down and block shots. They're going to have to do the little things right. Coach Gabinet talks about this all the time. Kirby Proctor mentioned in this week's presser that the team was really focused on themselves and how they play and not the other team. And they can't get wrapped up in the other team and how they're playing and how they're doing. Frustration can't set in. So it's a golden opportunity for UNO to get off to a good start in conference play and kind of reverse some of those demons that came out during the Ohio State series. So should be exciting. As I said, we encourage fans to come out. Both games 7:07 p.m. There'll be homecoming festivities. The UNO Alumni Association, as I mentioned earlier, is doing stuff. It'll be vintage night on Friday night, so you get to see those throwback uniforms. Should be great. If you want to watch those games, as always, you can watch those games on nchc.tv, which is the online subscription service for the conference. If you want to listen here locally in Omaha, you can listen to the game broadcasts on the radio at 1290 Coil. As always, be sure to follow us on social media because Bridget does live tweets during the game. You can find links to all of our social channels at mavpuck.com, as well as back episodes of this podcast, which Jason and I encourage you to listen to because Jason and I like it when our stat totals go up. It makes us feel good. It keeps us going. It keeps us motivated. But until next time, Jason, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.